You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome back to another episode of Trending Fantasy. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. You know, I'm joined by Mitch Sorensen at Dino MC. Mitch, tonight we are talking about some Trinity wide receivers that we're looking to buy.
Yep. Oh, I thought you were going to lead more into it, without a doubt, but no. So, dude, as everyone kind of knows me by this point, I don't like stupid stats. Like whenever I see like a YPRR/TPAR2 and all that, I'm like, dude, teams don't care about this. Why should I care about this? So I like things that make it easy. The Trinity tool for me makes everything easy. It is through the DD Fantasy Football website. It's just for me, keep it simple, stupid. Tell me how this is going to go, why guys are good. If I see projections or whatever, if I see some sort of stat that gives me all of the best wide receivers, they're all there, but then all of a sudden we see, not to move too far ahead, but a George Pickens is right there. A Drake London is right there next to Jamar and Jefferson. I'm like, okay, why are they there? And this tool works so well as far as just telling me like, hey, if you pick the good players in this list, you're going to be more than fine in your dynasty and fantasy and, best ball, all those other leagues as well.
So we've talked about this countless times. If you watch any of the other DD fantasy football shows across the channel, you have heard all of us talk about the Trinity tool over at ddfantasyfootball.com, and it has been completely revamped. The guys did a fantastic job behind the scenes. It looks incredible. If you are not familiar, the Trinity tool, it is a simple way to give you a numerical value and incorporate a player's air yard share, their target share, yards after catch per reception, and it ties in yards per route run as well. But basically, it's a utilization tracker. And based on the way these players are used, incorporating those individual metrics, it gives you a score, and it compares what their points per game were to what the expected, range should be. And the way now that it shows, like we have George Pickens in 2024 season, start week 1 and week 17 update chart. Boom. And this is, if you go into Trinity Tracker, if you have not subbed to the website yet, it's the Trinity Tracker and then TRO, Trinity Range of Outcomes. So we talk about probabilities and we talk about range of outcomes. We just talked about in Dynasty Theory this week, but you have the low, the medium, and the high range of outcomes. And this is based on historical data. I believe it's going back to 2020, but based on what George Pickens did last year, his Trinity score was 7.77. And for reference, 7.5 is high-end wide receiver 1 usage. He was above that. But his points per game were at 17.57. And you look at the range of outcomes, he wasn't even within the range of outcomes. The worst he should have done, the bottom 10% of historical results, should have had him at 13.6 points per game. But you look at it, and, honestly, I'm just going to pull, because I took a bunch of screenshots from my notes here. I'm going to pull this up as well, because it's going to be easier. I don't have to bounce back and forth. We'll just do screen. Let's get there. So you look at it, and we have George Pickens right here. And then you're going to see, we're talking about Drake London, Davante Adams, AJ Brown tonight as well. You see where they are. You see the trend line. If you are at the trend line, basically, you're hitting that range of outcomes based on the way you were used. If you were above that trend line, you got more fantasy points compared to your usage, but it could just be because of excellent quarterback play. it could be just because of big play potential, whatever the case may be. If you're below the trend line, most of the time it speaks to poor quarterback play.
Yes.
And you can see, Drake London was at that trend line. Did he have great quarterback play? No. But if he would have, I think he would have been up there with the Davante Adams, who, wasn't great quarterback play, but he was with his best friend in the whole wide world in Aaron Rodgers for a lot of the season. And then A.J. Brown had Jalen Hurts. But below the trend line, it's certainly a player that you should be looking to acquire. And Mitch, we talked about this countless times last year. You put out messages and posts on X about Ladd McConkey specifically.
Yep. Him.
It was sitting there staring us in the face.
Juwan Jennings was there the whole time. Cortland Sutton was there the whole time. He's, this tool really helps you find those diamonds in the rough, especially when the season's going on. You could lock in after 3 or 4 weeks and figure out the wide receivers that are way undervalued compared to what they're producing at all the time. I used it a lot for DFS, to be honest with you. It helped me out a ton when I was playing that, for the first 6-7 weeks of the season.
And you can see on my screen right now, this is a snapshot of the top 10 receivers. And then you see Trey McBride in there because he was just absolutely fantastic. But this is the table view. So if you would go, let me see here, back here. If you just go to Trinity report, that's where this would pull up. And you can filter based on teams. You can filter based on the year they came into the league. But there's a lot of great ways to look at this. And then again, there's numbers assigned, like values to the air yard share, the target share. Like the air yard share is not 7%.
Yeah.
Even though it says 7.17. So just to clarify there. But you can see the guys, I mean, Mitch, you mentioned it, like A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, Chris Godwin, George Pickens, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, Davante Adams, and Drake London. So when you can look at this list and you can start to differentiate, like I asked you, I was like, Mitch, who do you want to talk about tonight? And you're like, let's talk about Neighbors, Jefferson, Nico, and CeeDee Lamb. It's like,
that's right.
Yeah, they're all great. And then you were like, well, kidding. So we picked the guys that we're going to talk about tonight because there are still those opportunities from a market perspective to be in on them and to acquire at a really reasonable price, and obviously they're going to be a little bit different, valued. And again, I'm just going to leave my notes up on the screen. So the sausage being made, if you will, but George Pickens, fantasy calc, he's at wide receiver 30, 24 years old, free agent after 2025. I have him in that 62 to 82 overall tier in 12-team Superflex, 2 PPR for tight ends, not an extra 2 points, just the extra 1 point for tight ends. And there's only 20 wide receivers I have tiered above him. And you can look at his range of outcomes here. The high range based on his usage last year was 18.6. So this is a guy that I did not have a lot of shares of when he was in Pittsburgh. And really, yes, the Trinity score, it dictated that his production should have been better, but the quarterback play really brought him down. The scheme, I don't want to say the usage because this is the usage, but it just didn't really put him in a great spot because the usage was great from a market share perspective. And we talked about this with like Caleb Johnson in the receiving game at Iowa. A market share is great, but the volume isn't there. So that really was the big thing with George Pickens. But now that he's in Dallas, like I'm loving it.
Yeah, using this tool, it tells me, hey, just so everyone knows, if you look at about 14 points per game, that's going to give you about a wide receiver 24 season. So worst case, low end outcome, he's at 13.6 points per game, which is slightly less than a top 24 wide receiver. Still fantastic. If you're paying wide receiver 22 price and a guy ends up being wide receiver 26, that isn't ever going to kill you. But this is flat out telling you that there's every opportunity that he could be, wide receiver 15, wide receiver 10, something even higher than that. If anything happens to CeeDee Lamb, like he's going to go nuclear. And so we talked about Jameson on the Weekly Theory show this week as like hey, this is a wide receiver 2 we really want to buy. And if I'm going to tell anyone to go out and buy a wide receiver too that's not, T. Higgins at this point, it's George Pickens.
Is there any concern? Because you think about this, like, yes,
Mhm.
this was the way he was utilized in Pittsburgh. Is there any concern, because we saw CeeDee Lamb being a top 10 receiver from a Trinity perspective, with Pickens now being in Dallas? Can Dak, in fact, support both?
I think they can, because I think that running game is still going to be awful. Like, I have no faith that the collection of backs that they have there at this point is really going to be able to amount to a whole bunch besides Dak having to throw for 650 times this season.
Yeah, and that's fair. And then you see people say, well, George Pickens, because of the way he's used and the way he excels at the deep ball, Dak Prescott, his, average depth of target hasn't been, extremely
When you're
high.
throwing to the Jalen Tolberts on the outside, I kind of understand why he would just pepper, Jake Ferguson, Dalton Schultz back in the day, all that fun stuff.
And I was pausing there and hesitating because on my screen for my Google Sheets and Google Docs, it says trying to connect. So I'm like,
fun.
am I going to lose the feed here? So that's why I really stumbled. But I think we're
Is
good.
it back now?
No, but
fun.
wait, no, it's back. It's back.
All right, that's good. Don't touch anything.
But yeah, like Pickens, I still think he's a good enough receiver. The big question mark with him is he going to be in Dallas beyond 2025?
Yeah, you just don't know. But I say this all the time, and I'll repeat it during every single show if I have to. Dynasty managers really don't care. If they get a good 2-week sample, he's going to go up in value. If he gets a really bad 3-week sample, he'll go down in value. Like the whole where he's going to be next season when the season's actually happening, Dynasty managers really don't care. We say we do. We like to act like we care. It's just we see those values go up and down so fast that it's whatever happens on the field, that's what we care about, and we'll figure out the contract stuff after the season.
Yeah, and you made a comment, and it kind of leads into the next player here, Davante Adams. Again, seemingly going to a fantastic situation. Yes. Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford. Yes, he's going to have to work for targets against Puka Nacua, but I don't think that's going to be an issue because of the volume. I think it's going to be there, and they're going to be able to be creative in the ways that they get him the ball. So I would expect that his Trinity score would still be relatively high. I do think the Trinity score drops a little bit overall for Pickens and Adams, but I think the efficiency improves.
Yeah, the only thing, it's the Rams throw so much to the wide receivers. Like, they don't target tight ends. They don't target running backs. So even though there is Puka there, I could easily see Adams getting a 25, 26% target share just because they don't throw to anybody else besides wide receivers. Let's say you're very confident in your team this upcoming season. You have your 26th first round pick. You feel good about it, but you think Davante Adams could fit into your flex pretty easily. Would you move the 111, 112 for him if you think you're that good of a contender? So it's a first round pick for a 32. Do I remember right?
Yep.
Yeah, 32-year-old wide receiver. Something that you don't do, but it's Davante Adams.
You're hoping you get the high-end production, certainly in 2025, but hopefully in 2026. And this goes back to the point you made with the George Pickens conversation. Like, if you're paying wide receiver 22 prices for dynasty purposes, and they give you wide receiver 27 production, as long as they're young enough, that's not going to kill you.
Yes.
But if you're investing in like a 32-year-old and they give you wide receiver 3 production when the expectation was you're only buying them for that short shelf life because you think they're giving you that ceiling that you can't get elsewhere, that's going to hurt you a little bit. And man, like, again, I have a 26 first, a 27 first tiered above Davante Adams. I don't think I could do it.
I think I could. For a contending team, I think I could do it.
Now, if it's a 14 or 16 team league,
yeah,
different story, because that range of outcomes of where that pick could land, it's going to be not as broad because there's less variance when it comes to that. So
and there's a lot of bad teams in 14 and 16 team leagues. There's always 3 or 4 teams that just aren't good.
So you look at Davante Adams, the way he was used last year, he was at 16.96 points per game. His medium range of outcomes was 15.5, and his high end was 18.3. Again, I think that all comes down a little bit, but it wouldn't shock me to see the efficiency come up a little bit.
No, same. Yeah. That's my thought on him too.
So I really like Davante Adams. I have him. I always talk about the cross positional tiers. I have, well, he actually shifted recently. He's not in green anymore, but I think his value, like right after that late 26 first. Can I throw a pair of seconds over?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could. I just don't know if it's actually going to work.
Maybe they're gutting their team. The next player, Drake London.
See, and this is honestly why I like the Trinity tool, because I have never been a big Drake London fan at all.
It makes you rethink things.
It does, without a doubt. And I look in here and I see every single name that he is around. And then Drake London's right there. And I see his range of outcomes is 23 points per game on the high end. Mid range is at 18.5. So he's going to be a wide receiver 1. It's like, why on earth do I not have more exposure to him on my teams? Like, I definitely need, this is like, I am not arrogant enough to be out there like, oh, no. I have always been right on Drake London. All of this other stuff just doesn't work. This is flat out telling me that I need to have more Drake London. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm trying to get more Drake London on my teams for this reason.
He's wide receiver 8 on Fantasy Calc. I have 8 wide receivers tiered above him. I actually think he's a little overvalued, but if we are expecting the usage to continue, and this is one where the situation is not changing.
Yeah.
Compared to what it was at the end of the year. Now there was it the week 18 game against Carolina where London just absolutely went off. So I would say temper expectations a little bit, but if you're getting a 24-year-old wide receiver tied to I want to say young, but Michael Penix is an old year 2 quarterback, that's something to really, be interested in. But again, like I'm right on the edge there of, is Drake London overvalued? Is he valued right where he should be?
Yeah. No, I think he's really close because the guys under him, I see why they're under him. But right now, like a Marvin Harrison is still really close. I'll take Drake London over Marvin Harrison at this point. And the guys that are over him, I understand the Puka, CD, Nico, Amon-Ra. But it's also, when I look underneath him, I have a hard time seeing guys climb over him as far as what I think was going to happen this upcoming season. So I just think he's a really safe, I don't mind comparing him to Amon-Ra St. Brown and being like, I think he's that guy that just hasn't quite hit that value yet.
we didn't want to pull up trades for every player because we certainly would not stick to 20, 25 minutes, and we're not going to do it here anyway. But let's see. Drake London for Roma Dunze and the 112. Those are the main pieces.
Drake
here.
London for me.
Now this is a 12-team start 13.
Oh, see, you didn't add that in. And you also took the other pieces out, which is fine.
I'm
still going to go Drake London.
There's also a 308 on the Adunze.
Yeah. The very important stuff.
And Charbonnet on the London side. All right, 12-team start 12. Drake London for Jamison Williams, a 27 first, a 27 second, 2 27 thirds.
See, I always say I'm going to be on the 27 pick side, but I'm not. I'm going Drake London here. It's just, I can't, because I think Drake London's probably worth close to 3 first at this point, like really close to there. And that other stuff just isn't getting me there, even though it is that 27 first.
Right now in Fantasy Calc, Drake London is 21st overall. So 209 startup pick. Are you getting 209 for 2 firsts? Probably not.
No. That's why I think he's really close to like that 3 mark.
Yeah, I would say like 2.5.
Yep.
Like give that little buffer there. So that I'll take Drake London here. Drake London for 27 first and 27 second.
Yeah, same. Drake London.
Drake London for CJ Stroud. Let's go cross positionally.
CJ Stroud for me. It'd be a pretty weird scenario for me to move Stroud for London.
And then last one to go with London here. Amon-Ra St. Brown for Drake London and Evan Ingram. 12 teams, start 11, full PPR, no tight end premium.
If it was 25-year-old Evan Ingram, I would consider it, but without that, it's Amon-Ra.
Okay.
Agreed?
Especially with no tight end premium.
Yeah. Well,
now,
even if it was 1.0, I still couldn't do it.
Does a second shift it then?
No. I need more.
Like I think it's within the range of outcomes for London to outproduce Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh, I think it is too. Yeah. But you're also asking a Lions fan if he wants Amon-Ra or Drake London. I'm at a turning point with Drake London. I'm not fully there with the whole Amon-Ra thing.
Yeah. And then would you tear down from Justin Jefferson for Worthy in London?
I would need Drake London and like a T. Higgins type.
Okay.
Xavier Worthy's just not enough.
Drake London or Marion Hampton?
Marion Hampton.
Really?
Yes.
I would go London there.
You know what? I take it back. I agree with you. I was just thinking the 102, Marion Hampton, but no, you're right.
Okay. That feels good. That
You
feels
win
good for
win
you to
again.
say I'm right.
Yeah.
All right. And the last player, so talking about guys that we are looking to acquire based on the ddfantasyfootball.com Trinity tool using the historical comparison, the Trinity range of outcomes. Year over year, there are certainly different variables, but year over year, this does a pretty good job of predicting and projecting that point per game outcome for a player, because it is pretty sticky the way a player is utilized. Sure, there are different players that might, get thrust into a different role, but I think that's, rather few and far between. But then you see players change teams, OC situations change. So there are certainly things to look at there. But the last one, AJ Brown.
I don't know how he's valued what he's valued at is kind of the funny thing. Like, I understand the guys that are higher than him. I get it. But AJ Brown, in my mind, if someone comes up to me is how good is AJ Brown? I'm like, he's a top 5 NFL wide receiver.
Look at the high end outcome there.
Exactly. I mean, his mid outcome is wide receiver 6. For anyone, who can't see it on the screen for it, it's 19 points per game, pretty much. That's what, wide receiver 5? Yeah. But no, wide receiver 3 last year. And I mean, it's bonkers the way he's looked at. And I think I said this a couple episodes ago, but I got a DM from someone that was like, hey, do I need to move off AJ Brown because they're such a run centric team? And I'm like, no, AJ Brown is amazing. If someone came up to me and said like, hey, I think AJ Brown is better than Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm like, okay. Yeah. Like if you feel that way, I'm not going to disagree. Hey, he's better than Puka. Okay, cool. If they go like he's Jamar Chase, that's probably, I'm like, but he's definitely in that conversation, and he's turning 28 in like 2 days. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's almost at that 30 cliff. You get 2 more full years before that even happens. I am all about buying AJ Brown because he's always at the top of these lists on the Trinity tool. He's always there.
Yeah, and I said this on a recent episode. I said in the Discord community, but you look at the players from a value perspective that are over AJ Brown for dynasty purposes. Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, they're the oldest at 26 years old.
Yeah.
So AJ Brown, soon to be 28 years old. I always laugh. It's like, happy birthday. Now the dynasty community hates you.
Exactly. Yep.
But everybody else, that 22, 23, 24 years old. So AJ Brown is that first shift of that age. And you have to go all the way down to DK Metcalf, who's wide receiver 23. and DJ Moore, who's wide receiver 28, but that's the next set of guys. Terry McLaurin, he's going to be 30. He's wide receiver 24.
Value-wise, how much is it just how people like building dynasty rosters? They want the young wide receivers. And so, yeah, so right now we have a Brian Thomas Jr. over A.J. Brown. But if you're putting money on the table, who's going to score more points over the next 2 years, A.J. Brown or Brian Thomas Jr.? I'm going A.J. Brown.
And you could probably, like, from a lot of people, there's always that issue and there's that question mark of tearing down from those elite assets. And a lot of people, they try it, but they don't find much success. I think you get a 27 first with A.J. Brown.
I think you'd be very close. I do.
And that's something, a pivot that I would like to make. Like, this is not anti Brian Thomas whatsoever.
No, not at all. I mean, I love these players, but at the same time, like Marvin Harrison Jr. is over A.J. Brown. I'm like, you give me the next 3 years, I think A.J. Brown's going to score more points. And I mean, that's a bet that I'm willing to make any day of the week someone wants to.
And it comes down to it, like we always talk about, do I want 2 or 3 elite seasons or 5, 6, 7 okay seasons?
Right.
So I admittedly still have Marvin Harrison above A.J. Brown, but that's
so does Fantasy Calc.
That's the ageism glasses on right now. And I don't know if there's much of a buffer, like A.J. Brown in a second, maybe.
I think
if you pivot off of Marvin.
Right.
Yeah. So again, really just kind of wanted to showcase the new look, the revamped Trinity tool there at ddfantasyfootball.com. Check it out. First month, 50% off. Use code Theory. Had to think about it for a second. THEORY. And you know, it's one of those resources that, like Mitch said to kick off the show, he hates numbers.
I do.
He hates it. Him and Dan act like it's like voodoo magic. Like I'm like the witches in Hocus Pocus with my witch's brew. They're like, no, anything but numbers, please. But it's something that Mitch gets behind. So that true, like seriously, that is a true testimonial there of how fantastic it is. So come check it out. Mitch, anything else here on the Trinity tool? Anything else on A.J. Brown, Drake London? Who else do we talk about here? Davante Adams and George Pickens?
I think we hit most of them, to be honest. I used this tool last year and it helped me a ton. I'm more than happy just to keep talking about it all the time because I do think it actually helps make me a better dynasty player.
Yep. And it also helps you look at, pick up on those blind spots because we all have it. There are certain players where somebody will bring them up the way I have them in my tiers. And I'm like, honestly, they are a blind spot because like I don't really pursue them in trades. I don't have them in a lot of leagues. I don't look for them in startups, but maybe I need to look into this player a little bit more. And it's a great way to keep things in check. It really is.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Hopefully you all enjoy this week's episode of Trending Fantasy, talking about some of the wide receiver buys that we're looking at as a result of the Trinity tool over at ddfantasyfootball.com. Let us know in the comments any other topics you want discussed. Some of our favorite topics, the favorite shows that we've done are because of comments that you guys have left. And it's been absolutely fantastic. So let us know, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out ddfantasyfootball.com. For Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch you right next week. Peace.